Giants rested their starters, and Jalen Hurts returned to the field, leading the Eagles to their franchise record 14th win this season and the top seed in the NFC. The Eagles get the bye and will face the lowest remaining seed in the divisional round. Checking the odds in the NFC, San Francisco, the biggest favorite in the NFC this weekend. Minnesota edging New York in the regular season and is favored again. Even though Tampa beat Dallas to start the season, odds makers like Dallas on the road this time. That game, by the way, can be seen on ESPN's family of networks, 8:15 p.m. Eastern time. NFL analyst Louis Riddick back with us. Okay, let's get to your 3 and out. What are the 3 things that stood out to you most from yesterday?
Well, I think from this weekend, look, I'm going to start with the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm going to talk about the work that Patrick Mahomes put in this offseason. Remember now, only one receiver returned this past year that he had last year, and that was McCole Hardman. Everyone else was new. So when you start thinking that the NFL offseason doesn't matter and that players can just get ready in training camp, this guy got everybody together this offseason way early in the early phases of off-season conditioning and brought them down to Texas and got all these wide receivers on the same page. And that is why this guy came out of the gates absolutely flying and why he threw for over 5,000 yards and threw for over 40 touchdowns when everybody thought, well, without Tyreek Hill, he's bound to take a step back. Wrong. The offseason matters. Playing football matters. It's the only way you get better at the game of football. And Patrick Mahomes right now, he set the example. He set the bar. And that's why the guy's probably going to bank his second MVP. Secondly, this past weekend, it has to still do with Kansas City and the Raiders, who haven't been out there and seen these two teams play against each other. And even before that, Jay, talking to the Raiders and talking to guys like Devontae Adams, this team is closer than you think. It really is. They got to get the quarterback situation squared away. There's no doubt about that. Devontae Adams himself said, I need the stability. I want the stability. I want to give everything to this organization that I can. It was my childhood team. But they have got to get that situation squared away. They have a lot of draft capital coming their way. I think they have 11 picks in this draft, over $24 million in cap space. They have the assets to improve this team this offseason. I don't think they're that far away. Let's just keep an eye out for what they do this offseason. With this draft. Detroit, I'm going to say this now. I believe this team is a Super Bowl contender in 2023. I think what Dan Campbell is doing is absolutely phenomenal in terms of culture setting. I think young offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, what he did with Jared Goff this season, when Jared Goff was basically thrown on the trash heap, he was blamed for everything that LA couldn't accomplish offensively out there with the Rams. You see what he did last night? Now he's getting lauded for a lot of the things that the Detroit Lions are accomplishing, along with that great offensive line, those 2 running backs that can absolutely just bludgeon you, and a defense that right now has some young players that are standing up and saying, look, you better start noticing us, just like Jamal Williams said in his post-game comments. Look out for Detroit in 2023. I think they, for once now, are going to truly be looked at and be given the respect they deserve.
I am so with you on the Lions. And I imagine Packers fans listening to you talk about Patrick Mahomes, take the receivers down to work with in the offseason, were like, wow, what could have been, maybe.
Ding.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, don't ever dismiss the
Fast and furious at this point, and we are commercial-free for the next 25 minutes, counting down to the national championship game between TCU and Georgia from SoFi Stadium in L.A. Kickoff is set for 7:30 Eastern tonight. We're going to check in on both those teams shortly, and so much else going on.
Yeah, Hannah, we're following NFL coaching news for teams that did not make the playoffs with Cliff Kingsbury, the latest to be fired. That's what our Adam Schefter is reporting. More on that in a moment. And Stephen A's strong reaction to the Texans' decision to fire Lovie Smith after just 1 season.
Yeah, a lot of reaction about that one. And what about the future of Aaron Rodgers? Reaction to what the Packers quarterback said following that loss to the Lions at Lambeau last night that kept Green Bay from reaching the playoffs. What about the Dallas Cowboys? They're in the playoffs, but after that awful performance yesterday, could Dak and Dallas have cause for concern against Brady and the Bucs? Could they be one and done? And we'll have an update on Kevin Durant's right knee following an injury to the Nets star. He suffered that and the victory against the Heat last night. Details on that ahead.
Hannah, our breaking news into Sports Center. That's how we begin the show. Adam Schefter reporting the Cardinals firing Coach Cliff Kingsbury after a 4-13 season. Kingsbury had signed an extension in March that tied him to the organization through the 2027 season. That came after Arizona went 11-6 last season and made the playoffs. And our Adam Schefter joining us now. What more can you tell us about this move by the Cardinals?
Well, Jay, I think the owner there, Michael Bidwell, wants to make some major changes here. When you look at all that this organization went through this year, they relieved 2 of their assistant coaches of their duties for off-the-field issues. We had their general manager take a leave of absence to tend to a health-related issue. You had problems on the field with DeAndre Hopkins being suspended for 6 games, Kyler Murray and Zach Ertz tearing their ACLs, this team finishing the season 4-13, second worst in the NFC. None of this went the way that they planned. None of it went the way Michael Bidwell planned when he paid Cliff Kingsbury the contract last offseason 10 months ago. But Cliff Kingsbury is going to walk away here with roughly $30+ million. And so I'm sure he's going to find no problems finding another job, finding work elsewhere, and the Cardinals will look to make a new start, as I think this whole organization is going to undergo a makeover now with them firing Cliff Kingsbury this morning.
Where do you think the next move might come?
Well, there's a wide array of candidates out there available. And what's interesting is that Michael Bidwell, the owner, usually has his right-hand man, Steve Keim, right there to assist him. But most people have questions about Steve Keim's future with the organization. Obviously, he's on leave right now, and so Michael Bidwell doesn't have the trusted advisor or advisors that he normally turns to. Adrian Wilson, Quentin Harris have been helping him as the interim general managers, but he's going to have to figure out how to get this organization back to its winning ways. It's a big task.
Adam, you hang tight. Let's go over to Hannah with Lewis.
Well, so here's the outlook first before we get to Louis Riddick. They have the 3rd pick also in the 2023 NFL Draft after they finish an NFC worst 4-13. Adam referenced it moments ago. Kyler Murray, remember he signed that huge contract this past offseason. That was a questionable decision too. He's locked in now through 2028. What about DeAndre Hopkins when he gets healthy? Well, Arizona has him through 2025. Also, that defense, second most points per game. Obviously, J.J. Watt is now done. He had 2 sacks in his final game. So Louis Riddick is with us, and the fates of these 2 guys have been really tied at the hip. They came in together, Kingsbury and Murray. Yep. The team commits to Murray. We saw Kingsbury even say in games where Murray missed that he was able to run his offense better with a backup quarterback. I mean, it was not working. It wasn't going to work. Where should they go from here, in your estimation?
Well, considering the fact that they made this commitment to Kyler Murray, Hannah, and quite honestly, I don't know where they go without him. They better really start structuring everything so as to try and extract maximum value out of him, because that's where it starts. Look at any of the teams that right now that are at the top of the NFL. That dynamic between head coach and quarterback is rock solid. Just think about it. Think about how it is in Buffalo with Josh Allen. Think about how it is in Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, think about how it is with Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow. All of these guys, they are in lockstep with their head coach and general manager, as a matter of fact. And everything from there flows very fluidly and very consistently. It's nothing like that in Arizona. Nothing at all. Look, Cliff Kingsbury is one of those guys who, when you look him in the face and you kind of listen to him then talk about his quarterback and just talk about how he exerts his influence on this football team, it doesn't really make you feel confident in the direction of this franchise. So I think that's what they're going to have to find. Who's that coach? Who's that general manager if Steve Keim isn't there that can really extract maximum value out of Kyler Murray? And if you don't think you can get it out of Kyler Murray, then you are really in a world of hurt.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
You could potentially be in here with them. Exactly.
Is he the answer?
Exactly.
Okay,
I mean, that's going to be something that Michael Bidwell is going to have to figure out with the people who he does bring in to be his trusted advisors if Steve Keim's not going to be that guy.
I mean, they preemptively gave him so much money without a single playoff win. It is going to be fascinating to see what happens there in the desert. So much more to talk about. We're back with you in just a sec, Louis. Thanks.
And over the weekend, the NFL playoff picture taking shape. Here are the top things that you need to know right now. Jalen Hurts returning, leading the Eagles to their first 14-win season and the number 1 seed in the NFC. In the AFC, the Chiefs took care of the Raiders, got the 1 seed in a first-round bye. Seattle clinching the final spot in the NFC after its overtime win over the Rams and a Packers loss. The Dolphins getting the final spot in the AFC following a win over the Jets and a Patriots loss. And the Packers will miss the playoffs for the first time since 2018 after losing to the Lions. It was the first time they failed to clinch in a season finale in 4 chances with Aaron Rodgers. Here he is.
At some point, the carousel comes to a stop, and it's time to get off. And I think you kind of know when that is. And that's what needs to be contemplated. You know, is it time? Also, what's the organization doing? You know, it's part of it as well. But the competitive fire is always going to be there. I don't think that ever goes away. Sometimes it gets transferred, I think, to other things that might not ever fill that large void. But like I said, I feel good about what I've accomplished in this league and wouldn't have any regrets walking away. But I got to see what it feels like once I get away from this.
Louis Riddick back with us. Aaron Rodgers didn't sound very certain there.